magazine. Here's our new issue with the fantastic ruby wax on the front. But today we're not talking about ruby wax. We are talking to the wonderful Uju Asika. Welcome to the live broadcast today. Lovely to see your face. Today, Uju is, let me just get this right. You're a multi-award nominated blogger. You're a screenwriter. But what we're going to be talking to you today about is your book, which is Bring Up Race, How to Raise a Kind Child in a Prejudiced World. What an amazing title. Kindness is one of our big things at Psychologies, and we talk about it all the time. We have a kindness czar. So in this context, I'm so happy to be talking to you today, Uju. Tell me what is, oh, let's put it right into the screen so we can see it. Great, fantastic. It's a lovely cover as well. It's Yellow Kite, isn't it? Yeah. Uju, what inspired you to write this book? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What inspired you to write your book? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What inspired you, your book?
I've got a little bit of a lag, so.
Okay, okay. So tell me about your book.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, Yellow Kite. And it feels really nice, really tactile pleasure. Yeah.
So what inspired you to write the book, Uju?
Sorry, I've got a little bit of a lag. So I think you said what inspired me to write the book?
Yes.
I can hear you. Yep, I hear you now. What inspired me to write the book? Did you say?
Yes.
Yes. So many things. I mean, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Yes. I was inspired by. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it was a relative of mine who suggested I write on this topic. And, at first I was very hesitant around it. But then when I looked at my own life experiences and I thought about sharing stuff I'd experienced as a child and my own kids, as a mother, as a Black mum raising two kids in London, then I thought, well, this is actually a really, really important topic that is very rarely discussed. And there wasn't a real opportunity for me to kind of speak mother to mother as opposed to sort of coming at it as an academic or expert.
Yeah, amazing. So what are there's some real specific stuff that you cover in the book around, bringing up children and how we start approaching the conversation of race with our children. So how do we start the conversation, whatever color our children are? How do we start a kind of a kind conversation when our kids start noticing ethnic differences?
Yeah, I think my best advice is really to just start way before you are ready, way before you think your kids are ready, because most people think, oh, I'll wait until my child gets to some magical age. And actually, you can talk to a baby. There's research about people talking to babies who can't even speak. But if you're speaking to a baby about something that you find quite uncomfortable, it actually helps you practice on some level, but also it gives you the tools to keep talking about it. And then you start to normalize the conversation. But this doesn't mean that, like, if your child is in their teens and you've not had this conversation, that you shouldn't start. Just start. Ask simple questions, ask leading questions, and, just go in with a kind of listening and learning approach. So don't go in with the idea that you have to sort of always teach your child about race. First, try and find out what they know, learn from them, and then keep that conversation going.
So what kind of questions can we ask? What are some great questions that you've learned that open it up?
I think it very much depends on the child's age. So for instance, if your child is much older, they might have seen some of the protests that have been going on this summer, or they might have, they might be at school and they might have had conversations around issues such as Black Lives Matter. So then just, ask a simple question like, what do you think about the Black Lives Matter movement? Or what are your school teaching you about Black Lives Matter and the civil rights movement? For younger children, you can just ask very simple questions like, for instance, whether you're a white parent, whether you're a black parent, whether you're an Asian parent, you can talk about things like skin color, what color, what color are you? What color am I? Have you noticed people who are different skin colors? Why do you think that is? And then you start to get into a discussion. Just ask very, very simple questions that can lead into a larger discussion. And the main thing is not to be afraid, not to feel like, oh, I shouldn't mention color or I shouldn't mention difference, because the important thing is to try and normalize difference and embrace and celebrate it.
Yeah. I mean, in that piece about embracing and celebrating it, I mean, so many of our culture, be it schools or education, or we don't do that. Is there anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So systematically,
Okay.
it's something that we could do in opening the conversation up in schools. I was hearing about conversations recently about teachers who are handling maybe racist bullying in schools, not in a great way. What would your advice be if you're coming across, whether it's racism, if you're a parent and whether you're white or of color, what conversation can you start having in schools if there's something that you're picking up on that doesn't feel right to you? Where should you begin there? Do you go to the head teacher? Do you go to the parents? How do you start that conversation, no matter where you are?
Yeah. I mean, it can be a tricky one to navigate because obviously, school and various politics and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you feel like something is wrong, generally trust your instincts. Like if you feel like this is a racist incident, because sometimes there's a bit of a gray area and it's like, oh, is this racism? Is it not? If you feel that it is, trust your instincts and follow up, because this needs to be followed up on. Like racism falls under hate crime and it needs to be reported and it needs to be fully followed through. So do approach, like if it's within your child's classroom setting, do approach the child's teacher and see what steps they can take to make sure that whatever has happened is dealt with properly. Do take it to the head teacher, because it's an opportunity for the head to then address it on a broader scale. I mean, this happened with my kids. I wrote about it in Bringing Up Race, where my kids were involved in a situation which was slightly outside school, but it involved a boy from the school. And another parent actually reported it to the school. I wasn't there, but they reported it to the school. And we followed through and we had a meeting with the other parent and the head teacher. And even though the meeting wasn't sort of the best, we didn't all come away like singing Kumbaya and all very happy, but actually the head dealt with it really sort of thoroughly, and afterwards had workshops in the school which were around bullying and also around racism and prejudice, just to make sure everybody was kind of on the same page about what racism is and how to approach it and how to deal with it. So definitely follow through. And if you're not having luck with the school, take it even further, go to whether it's the school board of governors or, if you have to go to the wider community, do it. Like, do follow through for your child, I feel.
Yeah. So that's, on a systematic level to challenge that and to bring it up. What about when your child, with any kind of bullying, but in terms of racist bullying, what advice would you give to a parent whose child has come home and said, someone's been calling me names or worse because of the color of my skin? What advice have you got for us?
Yeah, I think it's really devastating, and I think it's fine to sort of sit for a moment with your child and those feelings. Let them have their feelings, and you have your feelings as well. Like, try not to. I always say, try not to flood your children with however you're feeling about something like that, which could provoke a lot of emotions within you. If you feel really overwhelmed, deal with your feelings separately before you come to your child. But it's okay to sit with your child and say, this makes me really sad and upset too. Make sure they know it's absolutely wrong, and make sure that they know it's not about them. Like, it's part of a whole sort of systematic chain of power and struggle. And, it's a historic thing that really isn't about them in that particular moment. And then just give them tools that you can talk through, like if they were in that situation again, what are things that they might say, what are things that they could do, or if they see somebody else in that situation, how might they intervene, or who can they turn to? Should they go and call somebody else to come and intervene? Should they talk to a teacher to stop the behavior? And then the main thing is just to keep affirming and empowering your child, because they need that sense of, like, no matter what someone says about me, that is just a tiny, tiny thing in terms of who I am. Like, you are wonderful. You are absolutely beautiful in your skin color. Everything about you is worthy of celebration. So just keep affirming them.
Sure. I think the piece about vocabulary and in the moment giving children those tools, I think it's so useful to get really specific about that. What sort of sentences or language that can we give our children? So if someone's listening, so obviously we want everyone to buy your book, but if someone is just catching this and wants, that's happening for their children today, what are some useful tools that you could give your children right now, in terms of, yes, affirming them, but in terms of maybe some language that they could use? Or because it's that thing of I know, when you're being bullied, sometimes you sort of come out of it and sort of start making up, oh, if it only had said that, if only had said that. So if we could kind of equip our children with, or to stand in and say, that's not acceptable, or what are the kind of, what's the
Yeah.
use?
I think really basic, simple language that kind of sets a boundary, because it's different. Every situation with bullying is going to be different. You don't know what the person might say. They might have comments about absolutely anything. When a bully wants to pick on weakness, they can just find anything to go for. So I don't know if there are like code phrases, but just a basic, like, that's not okay, that's wrong, that is racist. Calling racism out is really powerful, because
Yeah,
especially a lot of people don't want to be racist. They don't want to feel like they're being racist, even when they're being blatantly racist. To just call it out, especially if you are an observer or it's happening to you, just say, hey, that is completely wrong, that is racist, it's offensive, and then withdraw yourself from the situation as soon as you can, so you don't keep giving the bully that oxygen, because sometimes the deeper you get into it, you're just kind of feeding into the
yeah,
toxicity. So if they can withdraw themselves, just draw that line in the sand, stop, that's not okay, I'm not taking that, it's
yeah,
racist, and then withdraw yourself from
yeah.
it if you can. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, talk to your parents or talk to,
And then follow, yes,
yeah,
exactly. Take it to somebody who can support you, because you absolutely, support is absolutely essential for anyone going through any kind of
yeah,
victimization, to know that they're not alone.
yeah, to know that they're not alone. I mean, and that, so thank you so much for joining us today. Your book, Bringing Up Race, How to Raise a Kind Child in a Prejudiced World. Lovely. Let's see. Is now. Just before you go, one last piece of advice. If anyone's listening to this, or one last message that you could give to our audience around this, what would you say around dealing with racism and prejudice, especially when we're bringing up our beautiful children?
I think, please, please, please have the conversations around race, and just keep having them. And also examine your own upbringing, your own kind of ideas and unconscious biases. And there's so many resources and tools now. My
Yeah,
book is just one resource. that can help you understand the context of racism and then understand like what you can do going forwards and how you can do better. So yeah, be brave and have the conversation.
Yeah, Uju, thank you so much for writing that book, and thank you for brave enough for writing it and equipping us with more tools that we can all kind of use, whether it's with our own children or whether it's in the system, you know, and you know, for us all to sort of stand up together of the blight of racism. Uju, thank you so much for your time today. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Thanks so much. Bye. Bye.
Bye 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 bye.